Hey guys, I'm your host Olivia and you're listening to Season 1 of BCT. We are the Christian podcast that enables you guys to hear people from all different backgrounds talking about their real life stories of radical change. Follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. For those of you who don't know already, at the start of each episode I tell you guys a fact about myself so you get to know me a little bit more and more after every episode. Today's fact is that my favourite colour is blue. Any blue, I simply love blue. I actually have blue nails on at the moment, just to show that I love blue. And they do have a little flower on one of the nails, just to make them a bit more interesting. So guys, today I am joined by Chloe Abraham.
Hi.
I was going to say Chloe Davis then.
Oh my blast from the past.
She used to be Chloe Davis, but she's married now.
Yes, yeah, she's a married girl.
So Chloe, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Chloe. I am 24. I'm from Baglan originally. I have a lovely husband called Kieran and a dog called Abes, and he is my child, my fur baby. I am one of those people who considers their dog their child. I am not a person.
He is cute though.
He is really cute. Looks like a teddy bear.
And I know you do a lot for the church, so maybe talk about that.
Yes, so I'm one of the worship leaders here. So I've been worship leading now for around 6 years, I think it is. Yeah, I think I did it a year before I got married, so 6 years. 6 or 7, I don't know. And I also lead the Soul Point open mic night thing. Speaking about that, I don't know what it is. Soul Point is like an open mic night for the church, basically. It's like an evangelical outreach. So we just talk about God and music and, put the two together. It's great.
It's a lovely evening, isn't
it?
And we get a good crowd.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. We've got how many have we got now?
I don't even know.
Flipping heck. We have at least 40 to 60 people every night, and God's been so good. So it's been really, really cool. And every now and again I do a girl group called She, but it's a nightmare to get everyone together. But that'll be coming back in the summer, thankfully. Good. So so that's me.
Yeah. So let's just go straight into it.
Okay.
So when did you become a Christian?
So I became a Christian, I would say that I sort of accepted Jesus into my life when I was 7. That was when I knew I wanted to become a Christian. But then I think when I was in my teens, that's when I really started being more serious about my faith. And obviously being 7 years old, you haven't done a lot of living. So when I, joined comp and things like that and started to discover who I was and kind of just all things like that, that was when my faith became super important to me. And I sort of tried to make it more of the center point of my life. So I would say that I accepted Christ when I was 7, but then I began living my life really trying to be, holy and like Christ when I was in my teens. That was the turning point for me. I was around 13, 14. That was when I was this is what I want to do. This is where I'm at.
Yes, fab. So you've already talked about how you're married. Yeah. So when you were dating your now husband, Kieran, when did you know you were, I guess, ready to get married and knew it was time? Yeah,
so I got married young. I got married, I was 18. And so I suppose there were many times where I was I would love to be married to Kieran. That would be really nice. But then I think that's very different than I'm ready. Do you know what I mean? We all dream about the white dress and the wedding and what colour scheme you're going to have and everything. And I think as women, we do that quite a bit. But then in terms of oh wait, hang on, this is a really big lifestyle change for me. Am I ready for this? That came, this is going to sound really strange, but it came after I got engaged, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So Kieran and I, we dated for a while, and I have had full permission to speak about this from Kieran, but we were really not living our relationship like we should have. It was very much we were doing it for ourselves, and we prayed together and we read the Bible together and stuff, but we weren't making active decisions to really sort of put God in the center. He was always very important, of course he was, but we thought we were putting him in the center, but we weren't. He wasn't in the center of every single decision we made as a couple, and that led to quite a lot of conflict between the both of us, because individually we were seeking Christ, but we weren't seeking Christ together. There was never a unity there. It was always, I'm seeking Christ for myself and he's seeking Christ for himself, and that was it. And then we got engaged, and obviously I always knew, like, I wanted to marry Kieran. I always knew that, and so it was the easiest yes ever when he asked me to marry him. But then when we got engaged, that was when I really began to understand, like, what I was getting myself into as well. And it filled my heart with so much joy. Of course it did. And I genuinely couldn't wait to be married to Kieran. But then the way that God worked in my engagement was just incredible, because he changed both of our hearts and turned us towards him, and in doing that we turned towards each other. And so the closer we got to Christ, the closer we got to each other. And so when we were in our engagement and we were really in that season of our lives where we were really seeking God together, that was when I knew, like, I know I'm ready for this. Like, I really, really want this, because God gave us such a clear view of marriage and why it's so incredible. And you know, in the Bible, marriage is talked about quite a bit. And so we loved that image of Christ being the groom and the church being the bride. And it brought home to us how incredible marriage was. And I just couldn't wait. So I definitely, when I was engaged, which is a weird answer, you think it was before, but when I was engaged, it was like, oh, can't wait. I am so ready for this. I can't wait. So
yeah, I remember you getting engaged.
Yeah, you were my bridesmaid, Liv. You were like a little fetus. You were so tiny.
Like, I remember, like, we were on the youth weekend. And I think Emily had like a message or a phone call or something. She was like, Liv, Chloe's engaged. I was like, oh, ran upstairs to my dad. He was like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you.
Oh my gosh, I was like, that is so your dad. Like,
and now look at us now.
I know. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I still have the dress.
Yeah, my little bridesmaid. Oh, you looked so pretty. Well, now you're like this stunning young woman. It makes me so happy.
And now we're doing podcasts together.
I know. Oh my gosh, I love how God works.
So, right, next question before we go off on a tangent.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you just mentioned, like, you were like, what did you say, 19? 18. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know.
So did you ever have people questioning, like, your decisions on getting married so young? And how did you overcome, I guess, people's opinions of your young marriage?
Yeah, it was really hard. So yeah, we did have a lot of people who came from the right place. Like, they were really, really like, oh yeah, we're happy for you, but you sure? And you know, we really did understand where people were coming from, and so it was okay. Like, of course we were, you know, a little bit like, oh, like, right, because people, it would always be like, oh, we're so happy for you, are you sure? And yeah, so but I am thankful for that as well, because it did make us reflect on our decision as well a lot, and that's how we knew, like, do you know what, we do feel okay about this, and we both received such peace from God that this was what was meant to happen, and it was the way in which it was meant to happen. And so overcoming people's opinions is always difficult, because people do make them known, whether it's in a nice way or perhaps a more harsh way, but I think when you know that God is doing something, and when you know that God is leading you in that direction, you can't be afraid of what people think. Like, you've just got to go. You know, there's a verse in the New Testament somewhere where Paul says about, like, I'm not living to please men, I'm living to please God, you know. And that for us was a really big thing, because we knew our situation was quite unique with me being 18. Like, we knew that, and we knew what people's opinions were, and it wasn't always Christians either. Like, my friends that are not Christians were like, Chloe, are you sure? Like, we love Kieran, but are you gonna wait? Like, but even when people's opinions were coming at us, it just didn't waver us. Like, in fact, it actually put us more together, because it caused us to sit and reflect and be like, right, we need to make sure that we're taking this before God, and that, you know, is this something that we you know, really, really need to do, or is it something that we can wait for? And every time we took it back to the throne, it was like, no, we came away from the throne and being like, yeah, you know, this is where we're going. And, you know, and that's just been confirmed with everything that's gone on in our lives since. Like, God has really put us in that situation for the future. And so he really did know, like, he knew that in the next couple of seasons of life that we needed to, you know, just the way that things were working out, like we needed to be together.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. And it just shows the providence of God, like that he knew exactly what was coming. And like there are situations that Kieran's been through and he's like, I don't know how I would have done it if we weren't married. And I'm like, yes, same. Like, and then also for me, you know, and so, yeah, it's been confirmed to us, you know, quite often that we did the right thing. And yeah, and it just gets better. Marriage is awesome. I love him to bits. He is lush.
Oh, that's amazing, Chloe. So as obviously I'm like a young teenager, you know, I'm a girl, I'm interested in boys and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say I am.
Yeah.
But I feel like now that I am getting older, it's something I think about a bit
It's
more.
on your mind. Yeah.
So I guess this is the question from me, but obviously other maybe single young Christians or old Christians,
Yeah.
you never know. Do you think it's right for a Christian to be actively looking for a partner, or do you think they should wait for God to, I guess, bring them, you know, a partner, like show them like who he wants them to be with?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily wrong, you know, to look for a partner. You know, I don't think that's wrong at all. And I think that we are wired for connection. We're wired for intimacy. And so I think that it's a natural thing. So to suppress that, I think would go against who we are, you know? But I think, you know, that there's a really fine line between just actively looking and then interfering.
Yeah.
And so when Kieran and I were dating, there was a really lovely quote that both of us, like when we read it, it was like, right, now we definitely know that we're together on this, because it was a quote by an author called Daniela Strickland. She wrote a book called A Beautiful Mess. I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic book. And it said, if you are really set on finding a partner for yourself, just run in the direction of Jesus, and every now and again just stop and look around you, and whoever's keeping up with you, maybe they're interested, maybe they are an interested party, or maybe there's somebody that you could pursue. And so I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with sort of looking and being like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, like that. He could be like, he could be a little cute companion for me. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I also think, you know, Proverbs 3:5-6, where it says, acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. And so it's like, acknowledge Christ before anything else. So acknowledge Christ before you set your eyes on somebody. Acknowledge Christ in your daily life, not just because you want to find somebody, but because you love Jesus and you just want to fall in love with him. And he will make your path straight. He will direct your paths. And so I think my advice to anybody in that position would be to just keep seeking Jesus. Like, he is the one that can make your path straight. He's the one that knows you better than anybody. And so if it's in his will that he has somebody for you, then that is worth the wait. And, you know, marriage is such a beautiful thing. It's you know, it's a depiction of Christ and the church, you know. And so when we get married to people, like we, you know, and particularly for us, you know, being women, like we look for all these attributes in a man, don't we? But when we actually look at the scriptures and look at what a biblical husband is, like, they have such a huge role, because they are essentially like playing Christ in like, let's think about it as a play. Like, they are playing the groom, they're playing Christ. And so in Ephesians it says, lay down your life for her as Christ did the church. That is a huge amount of love. And I would always ask myself, you know, like, why would I throw that away? Why would I choose myself a partner when that's God's standard for the man that I am going to marry one day, you know? And I was in a non-Christian relationship when I was a teenager, and I had sort of the two sides of non-Christian and Christian. And God really worked in my heart in that season of life, because I realised how important it is to acknowledge God in all your ways, because Kieran is a perfect fit for me, you know, his personality, the way he is, how he calms me when I'm really anxious. Like, Kieran, if you don't know my husband, he's the most laid back person. He's so laid back, he's horizontal, but he's also very logical, and I'm not those things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go on a plane and I'm going to die. He's like, you know, because statistically speaking, and he does all these things. But yeah, so like, God knows who is the perfect fit for you. And so nothing wrong with having a little cheeky look, you know, nothing wrong with that, you know. That's not sinful, you know, inherently sinful at all. But I mean, in the sense of, don't interfere with God's plan. If you feel like, do you know what, this doesn't feel right with me, this isn't sitting right with me, don't pursue it, you know. That is there for a reason. And then go back to God every day. He's your dad, you know, like talk to him and just say, God, I really, really like this person. And I just don't know how to feel about it, but I know that you know the end from the beginning. Like, you know whether this person is going to be good for me. And so I trust you with this, and leave it in his hands. That doesn't mean to say leave it in his hands and then ignore the boy and see if he's going to come back.
Imagine.
But I know, yeah. But what I mean is just like, acknowledge God in it, pray about it, put him in the centre, and he will make your path straight. He will. His word says it. And so do the work, but take it to God. Take it to God and let him do the rest, and just be there and be used and be ready to use for his will. And you'll be surprised like where he leads you, because he can do so much more than we can ask or imagine. And so he's worth submitting to, you know. God is worth submitting to, because he knows exactly who the perfect guy is for you. But I mean, if anybody falls in love with you, Olivia, they'll have a whole church. I'll be like, you have to get through me. Like, are you a Christian? I'd be like asking him all these questions. You'd be dreading me meeting him, honestly. You'd be like, oh, got a separate meeting for Chloe. Like, nobody's good enough for my Olivia.
I love that. Oh, great advice though, Chloe. Thank you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's like so important as well to always have like God at the center of like a relationship. I think like I won't mention any names, but like I know this couple, and they went through like a rough like patch last year. They kind of just took a break, and then they like they individually kind of like went off and focused on God. And then when they came together, like back together, they were so much stronger, because they put God first, and God was the center of their relationships. Everything that like they did was based around him, you know. And they started like, I guess, studying his word like more together, and it's just like it was just formed like a much better relationship. So like I think that's just all I could dream for.
yeah, and that's exactly it. And like I just imagine like a triangle, and God's at the top, and
third wheeling like
and like you're in the corner, and your other half is in the corner. Like the closer you move towards God, the closer you move together. Do you know what I mean? So when like any time seeking God is never wasted, because you never come back empty-handed. There's always something that blesses your heart, or you know, and there's always something in scripture. Don't get me wrong, like all of scripture is inspired, but not all of it is inspiring, right? If you read the book of Numbers, there's a little bit in there, you know, the Lord bless you and keep you, that bit, but the rest of it is like, whoa. But there's always something, like God can use so much scripture. And so when you're both like seeking each other, seeking God, you will grow closer to each other. And that is genuinely just a fact of life, being honest with you, because I've seen it in my own marriage, where when me and Kieran are like, you know, like bipping at each other, it's because we haven't spent time with the Lord. It's because we haven't prayed. It's because we haven't, you know, been together and sought God together. And so when both of us are bippy, we're like, have you spent time with the Lord today? Like, you are bippy. Like, it's like, no, I haven't. Like, so, you know, no time with God is ever wasted, you know? Sometimes you'll walk away feeling like you've had nothing, but the fact that you've just been in his presence is enough. Like, you don't come out of God's presence the same. Like, every single person in the Bible who has been in the presence of God does not come out the same. I mean, blinking heck, Stephen's face was shining. So was Moses, you know? Like, being in the presence of God is never wasted, and it'll be the perfect thing for your relationship. Like, when he's first, you will love each other better, period. Like, that is how it works. Mainly because God puts such a emphasis on marriage, and just how incredible it is. And, you know, so I think my one piece of advice to anybody who is in that position would literally just be like, just run after Christ and see who's keeping up. Do you know what I mean? And just keep going for him, and only him, just because you want him, not because you want something from him, you know?
Oh, thank you so much, Chloe, for coming.
It's okay. It's been, I'm very like, ooh, I feel like a celebrity here, Liv. I'm like, oh, who's this?
You'll have to come again.
Oh, I would love to. I feel like I need to fall asleep in here. It's so calming. Anyway, sorry.
I'm glad I created that atmosphere for you.
You have. It's very chill.
So thank you so much for being on my podcast, Chloe.
It's okay.
The words you've said were inspiring. Oh. And I know people will take a lot from it. I will, definitely.
Oh.
So thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, guys, for listening once again. Don't forget to subscribe on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. And make sure to follow us on all the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, whatever you find us on, to keep up with updates and what we get up to. Bye for now.
Bye.